This is Catholic Forum. I'm Bob Krebs, and my guest today is Fritz Jones, the Executive Director of Catholic Charities of the Diocese of Wilmington. Fritz has been working for the diocese at Catholic Charities for 44 years?
45.
45 years.
Right. 45 years and 10 months, but who's counting?
Right after the first of the year, early in, or mid-January, you're going to hang it up and retire.
Yes.
And we're going to be talking about that. We're going to talk about. We're going to let you look back at some of your time here at the diocese with Catholic Charities. Before we do that, since it is the holiday season, this Christmas, New Year's time of year, a lot of folks suffer from anxiety, depression. They overindulge in alcohol and other substances, what should we be on the lookout for ourselves and for our loved ones that they might need some help?
That's an important question because, this time of year we're encouraged to be happy, and the Christmas music has already started with Fa La 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 La, and the Hallmark Channel is showing every night a Christmas story. But the reality is that so many people in our community struggle year-round, but in particular over the holidays.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of reasons for that. People over the holidays tend to reflect on where they are in their lives, and sometimes they're not where they want to be. Others reflect on losses that they've experienced in their lives. Others actually engage a little bit too much in some of the fun of the holidays, and some folks that struggle with alcohol addictions or other addictions can struggle during this period of time as well. Working at Charities for all these years, I always used to say, and we trained our staff, particularly when it came to the group homes for kids, our maternity home, even our clinical staff that work with folks. This is the time of year we see clients that tend to be a little angrier. They also tend to just kind of become withdrawn in some ways as well. And I always used to say that from Thanksgiving through New Year's was the hardest time of the year as it related to clients and some of the acting out that can happen with them. So we just remind our staff, the person sitting across from us is the face of Christ, and we have to recognize the trauma they've been through has created these kinds of challenges, and our job is to address them. So what to look for? Folks that withdraw, folks that, maybe were the folks that usually brought the first joke to the table, that all of a sudden are a little quieter, maybe not as present as they were. That's a sign of depression, pulling back. Also, folks that are imbibing, if you will, too much in certain things like drinking. It's important to be able to, if you live with someone that does that, be able to say to them, hey, pay attention to this. This is the time of year that's important for us to be comfortable in helping support the folks that we work with, we live with, we care about.
What would be a good advice that we could give to someone that we see that might be a little bit withdrawn than usual? They might say, something's going on with her or him.
Well, you've kind of answered the question, and that is say to them what's going on with you.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to say, hey, I've noticed a change. You okay? Is there anything I can do to help? And don't always expect somebody to say, oh, yeah, let me sit down and tell you. But that seed is planted, and so it does a couple of things. One is perhaps the person at some point will talk, but the other is it tells that person somebody cares about them.
Right.
And oftentimes that's what they think they don't have, is people that care about them. And there are more people around them that care about them than they are thinking about at this time.
There's a lot of anxiety in the world today. You can't even watch the news without developing an ulcer.
Sure.
And holidays, expenses and things compound that. And
that's a big problem. A lot of our clients do not make good decisions financially around this time of year. And so it's not uncommon for us to see in January, February, more folks coming to us for utility assistance or rental assistance. So, what we try to do is the clients that we're already working with, remind them, you don't need to buy your children the Cadillac for Christmas. You can get them something a lot cheaper. It's not what the cost of the gift is. It's the simple fact that you're, giving to your child or to your friend or to your family member. It's really, as they say, the thought that counts.
Yeah. Well, thanks for those tips. Very timely during this time of year. So let's talk about you a little bit. I've been really looking forward to this, and I've heard this story before, but maybe some of our listeners haven't. How did you end up at Catholic Charities? And it was what, 1978? 78. Yeah.
February 8th of 1978. Excuse me. So I went to Del Tech and got a degree in criminal justice corrections. For whatever reason, I got very interested in probation parole work. I did an internship in probation and parole work for the state of Delaware. Then I went to Wilmington College, now Wilmington University, to finish my bachelor's degree in criminal justice management. And I was really interested in prison reform and was very, probably really, the thing that motivated me to learn more about it was the prison riot in Attica in New York that many people don't even know historically about. And so, I was a musician back in those days and wasn't going to go to college. And then some things changed in my life where I decided to go to college, and I just really kind of blossomed in school. I just really loved it. So, I finished my degree, and I needed to get a job. I needed to put some food on the table and pay the rent. And so I applied for the state of Delaware probation parole, and there was a hiring freeze. So I thought, well, what am I going to do now? And so I just started looking for work, and I saw an ad in the News Journal. It was actually placed by a placement agency looking for child care counselors to work at Siena Hall, which was one of the Catholic Charities group homes. So I applied for the job. I was very fortunate to get the job. I remember I had to pay, I forget how much it was. I think I paid $333 for the privilege to come to work at Catholic Charities. But
to the placement
placement
agency.
agency.
Yeah, right.
But I didn't know what to expect. I didn't really know much about Catholic Charities. I was a little familiar through my school studies with group homes for kids. But when I got there and started working with the kids that were there, Bob, I just couldn't, I was hooked. I was completely hooked. My thinking process went from the idea of helping people that were in prison to helping these kids stay out of prison. And just threw myself into the work and just fell in love with it. And, I have to tell you a quick story as I wanted to always be, friendly with the kids, but not their friend. And I spent a lot of time just playing sports up on the hill. We used to call it the backyard of Siena Hall, which was next to the art museum, Delaware Art Museum at the time. And early in my career, people would ask me, well, hey, Fritz, what's your new job? What are you doing for a living? And I said I was a professional wiffle ball player because I played hours and hours of wiffle ball with the kids and just had a blast.
And that's probably exactly what they needed.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The kids that came from these backgrounds, pretty depressing circumstances, abused, neglected, often sexually abused, very, very challenging. Yet what we saw in these kids is that they wanted to embrace life like we did. And they needed some help to figure out how to do that in a more appropriate way. And so for us to have that opportunity to be able to live in the group home with them, because that's kind of what we did. I remember when I first started working for Charities, I went to work on a Monday morning and left work on Thursday morning. I was there for 3 straight days. We kind of lived in the home with the kids. That changed over time and became more shift work. But during that time, by living with the kids, it allowed us to have the opportunity to develop a relationship that was very, very different. One, we could reflect good parenting. And unlike a lot of people where they're more comfortable in sitting in a clinical session or even having a conversation like you and I are having, our kids didn't feel comfortable doing that. They needed to, you needed to earn their trust, if you will. And so just this routine that we would set up, the homework time, the dinner time, the dishes, the chores, the activities, the quiet time, the time up on the hill playing wiffle ball, those were the times that the kids would actually say, can I tell you something that happened to me that I need to talk about when we were drying dishes, not when we were in a clinical session sitting across the table from each other very often. And so just those opportunities to engage with the kids like that was really, really special. Excuse me.
So it was 1978.
Yep.
Who was the executive director at the time?
Richard Pryor.
Richard
I used
Pryor.
to tell people that I worked for Richard Pryor,
And it was true.
and it was true.
And I guess Bishop Mardiga was the bishop. Is that
Bishop
right?
Mardiga was the bishop.
So you've
yeah.
worked through Bishop Mardiga, Bishop Saltarelli, Bishop Maluli,
Maluli,
and now
and
Bishop
Bishop
Kennedy.
Mulvey.
Bishop Mulvey. I forgot
Yeah.
Bishop Mulvey.
So
Wow.
what I've told people is when I say that I've been here for 45 years, that doesn't make me feel as old as when I say in the history of the Diocese of Wilmington there have been 10 bishops and I've worked for 5 of them.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
How has Catholic Charities changed over these past 45 years to meet the changing needs of the community?
Well, in many ways, or I guess in an important way, is the one thing that hasn't changed is our mission and what we're all about and the people that we serve. But just like in any kind of work, things change. The skill sets that we need to work with people, the knowledge that we've developed over the years. I remember in the late 70s when I first started in 78, 79, 80, there was not a lot of talk about the group home kids that we worked with about sexual abuse. And then as my career moved on, we recognized that that was much more prevalent than we had understood and known.
Mm-hmm.
So as the field of work progresses and the way we work with our clients, whether it's in a clinical setting, whether it's in a supportive setting like in a maternity home, whether it's the way we provide case management, it changes as it relates to the resources we have, but not the way we deliver that. And so probably in my years of experience, the biggest change is that we actually worked and moved away from these kind of residential group homes. The ones that we managed back in those days, Siena Hall, Seton Villa, they were model programs. They were known nationally for the kind of care we gave. But times changed, and it's recognized in the field that really, even though these homes are necessary, the best way to help support a child is to keep them in their home if there's any way we can.
Mm-hmm.
So our programs changed over time, particularly with our children that we had in our care, and we worked really hard to keep them in their homes. And if they couldn't stay in their home, then place them in specialized foster homes and work with families. The agency used to do adoption before Roe versus Wade, which of course has now been changed. We would do 35, 40, 45 infant adoptions annually, and then it dwindled down to 2 because people were either, culturally things had changed. Either, unfortunately, the abortion issue was there, people were having abortions, or the other reality is that single parenting moms that would take care of their children just over the time changed.
Right.
International adoption became very busy at that time. We did that for a little while, but even that arena's changed significantly. So, as an example, we moved away from adoption about 20 years ago now. And that we were able to, when that happened, make sure that families that used to come to us that were interested in adoption could work with other agencies, because there were other agencies in the state that did that. But as we made that transition, then we took over Bayard House, which was actually a private agency working with pregnant women with at-risk pregnancies, and we took it over in 2004. And so actually I went there. They asked me to go down to kind of figure out what we were going to do with it. Bayard had been around since 1979, but ran into some fiscal problems, so the diocese merged with them. So when I got there and spent about half my day there for many months, it was a great experience because it's really said to us, we need to add a lot of diverse kind of support to this program that these clients don't have. Those clients were changing over time as well. And so, the program we have now, which is recognized by the federal government as a model program, is a result of charities coming in and saying, okay, what do we need to do to better support our moms-to-be to be really good parents? So, you just kind of have to keep up with the times. And so that's where we are.
My guest today on Catholic Forum is Fritz Jones, Frederick Fritz Jones,
That's right.
Yeah. In case anybody ever wondered what Fritz's
Fritz
real name is, it's Fritz
I
Frederick.
was never a Fred. I was always a Fritz.
Always a Fritz. And he is the retiring Catholic Charities Executive Director. What do you hope the future will bring for this organization that you invested your entire working career into?
That's a really great question. So one of the things, and I really feel blessed. The diocese has supported this 100%. Is about a little shy of a year ago, we started to invest in a very important strategic planning process. And we've done strategic planning, but we wanted to do one that was a little more robust. And that kind of thing takes a little more time, costs a little more money, and the diocese fully supported that so that we could do exactly or answer that exact question. What's the future of charities going to look like, particularly in the next 3 to 5 years? And so we engaged, and one of the reasons it took a little more time is we've engaged every single staff member at Catholic Charities. We've engaged people in the pews. We've engaged people that are contractors and vendors, clients. We've tried to touch everybody that we could possibly touch to be able to develop as comprehensive a plan. So the committee was made up of board members, staff members, among others, is just about 2 or 3 meetings away from putting that plan out. Is it going to be a vastly different plan from what we do? No. I think what it's going to do is it's going to challenge us to strengthen the areas that we need to strengthen in to do even a better job. One of the things that I've tried to do in my career is raise the bar, get to where we need to get, and then raise it again. Keep us pushing harder to try to always achieve more. It wasn't that many years ago we had about 120 staff that served about 60,000 families a year in the diocese. We have about 75 FTEs now, and we serve about 86,000 people in the diocese now.
Doing more with less.
Doing more with less and being more efficient. So, we know some of the areas we need to improve in. One of them is the ever-changing field of technology and how it can help the work that we do. Recognizing that and being able to afford it sometimes can be two different things, so we're getting more strategic about that. With COVID, one of the things that happened, we saw a lot of changes with staff expectations. We had a lot of vacancies for a while. And it's certainly not just us. This is an issue across the country,
Right.
In every industry. And so one of the things that we're looking at is how can we better support our staff and keep them engaged in learning and moving forward so that we don't have the turnover that can occur if we don't provide those things. So that's just a little bit of an example. But we really also we are dedicated to the idea of growing in the counties in Maryland and the lower part of Delaware that we don't have a footprint. And so that's a major part of what we're looking at doing and how we're going to do it. I'm excited about what that report is going to recommend when we get down to into the weeds with some of the suggestions. So what we really do want to represent all of the diocese, not just Delaware and the 3 counties in Maryland where we have a footprint now.
You talk about how excuse me, how Charities has grown over the last 40, 45 years. Seton Center in Princess Anne's another was an organization, private organization run by the sisters, and now it's a Catholic Charities ministry. And I think Casa San Francisco is the same way, correct?
Yes, it was founded by a private group of people that then ultimately merged with Catholic Charities.
So there's been growth. Those are some very key ministries down in the lower part of our diocese. So yeah.
And there are some, and one of the things of the many things we learned, and we've talked a little bit about this, is through COVID, the whole idea of collaborating, particularly with other nonprofits. I think the best example I can give is the one that's been in. We've had a couple articles of dialogue, but and we had the interview with Colleen from Goodwill as the whole relationship between Goodwill and Catholic Charities.
It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and we're actually now going to be merging and meeting with Goodwill of Maryland to be able to do that in the Maryland counties.
Great.
So we're getting ready to meet with them, and we were approached by a local construction company that we're not quite ready to name the name, but they're a very large roofing business in Delaware, and they want to help us identify families that need roofs up to $20,000 worth of roof repairs so that they can help some low-income families that otherwise would not be able to have it done. So those collaborations continue to grow, and I'm confident in my leaving that's going to continue to be the path Charities moves forward with.
So Fritz, in a few months you'll be retired. What's the plan? You just going to put your feet up and watch TV? I mean,
No, I don't think so. Although I might sleep in a little later than I have been for all these years. Some folks know that when I was younger, I mentioned I was a musician, and I kind of took a different path, and about 10 years ago got involved in music again. So I'm playing a local band, and we're looking forward to playing a little bit more. I've got a lot of family and friends across the country that we hope to travel and go see, and so we're going to do some traveling, and we're going to start figuring out what to do with all the stuff in our basement that our kids don't want, that kind of stuff. But
and I should add, your lovely bride was another long-time employee, and she's retiring as well.
yeah, Donna, 40 years at
Yeah.
the diocese.
Wow.
Yeah.
So between the two of you, it's 85 years.
years.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yes, it is.
Well, Fritz, thanks so much for your service. It's been a pleasure working with you.
Thank you.
We-
My pleasure as well.
We wish you much success in retirement, and hope to relax a little bit. And I think a lot of people work harder when they retire. I'm sure
Yeah,
you'll
I've
be
heard that,
volunteering
so-
for a few things.
Yeah, I've had some folks already asking me about board memberships and stuff.
I'm
So
sure.
we'll see what happens.
Anything you'd like to say to the community, to the staff?
Absolutely. I really want everybody to understand, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, that every day has been my privilege. I've said this before. I said this at the annual dinner a few years ago. Think about the first time in your life that you had to ask somebody for help, and how hard that is. And so, we have people that come to us like that every day. And, to me, they're our cultural heroes. I mean, they're the people that really mean the most to me personally and professionally. I remember many years ago when the TV show The Survivor came on, and I vowed to never watch it because that's not what surviving is. Our clients are survivors. And the challenges that they need to overcome, the strength they need to walk into our office and ask for help, is something that just I admire in them. And so, like I said, it's been my privilege to be a part of the service community for all these years. And, I would like to believe I did a little more good than harm.
I'm sure that's the case.
So anyway, it's just, I'll miss that interaction with our clients the most.
Yeah. Fritz, thanks so much for being with us today on Catholic Forum.
My pleasure.